Hi, this is State Representative Todd Stephens, and I want to try something here. I've got TJ Seidenberger, the principal over at Montgomery Elementary School, right here in Montgomery Township on Stump Road. And how you doing today, TJ?
I'm great, Todd. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. I'm trying to work through this new normal we've got. And one of the things that I have noticed over the last several weeks is really a big disconnect. And I think people may not understand all that's going on in our community and what I'll call our community helpers and community workers are out there doing every day. It's a really tough time for everybody. And, I think it's easy to get kind of lost in the stresses and struggles of our own world and not necessarily realize, what everybody else is going through. And so I know I have two small kids, both in elementary school, and I know you've got some children of your own as well. But I thought it'd be a good opportunity for us to talk and share with the residents of my legislative district what's going on, particularly as it relates to Montgomery Elementary, and then, to the extent in the broader context with education as a whole here in Pennsylvania. So I wanted to just provide that backdrop for you and give some folks some perspective on what we're doing.
Sure. So within the past month, talking about North Penn School District as a whole, we took about 13,000 students, 1,100 teachers, and turned a brick and mortar school district into a virtual online platform. So it was a challenging time to move to that, to the platform that we're on right now. Now, specifically with Montgomery, I give a tremendous amount of credit to my staff. They've taken the ball and they've run with it. They're used to seeing their students every single day for a full day at Montgomery. And now, we're trying to figure out schedules where we can have teachers match up with their kids just so kids can have FaceTime with their teachers. Our students and our families miss our teachers, and our teachers definitely miss our students. So we're trying to figure out what our new normal is and what does education look like right now. But my staff has done a fantastic job in taking everything that they've been given right now and turning it around and making some magic with the uncertainty that we have in society today.
Yeah, that's terrific. And look, that's a great lesson for the kids too, the resiliency and the ability to sort of stretch your thinking. And, sometimes life throws you a curveball and you got to figure out how to hit it. And so.
Absolutely. Yeah. And life is definitely throwing us some curves right now. And, but like I said, my teachers are standing in the batter's box right now, and they're taking them as they come, and, they're knocking them out of the park.
Well, that's great. Just for some perspective for folks, how many students do you have at Montgomery Elementary, and how many staff members do you have over there?
So we roughly have about 700 students. We're looking at about 60 some staff members, a little bit more if you include our instructional assistants. But so we're the largest elementary school in the North Penn School District. Out of the 13 elementary schools, Montgomery is the largest. So we're working, and just for a little aside, whenever I send an email notification out to the Montgomery community, typically goes to about 2,200 email addresses. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of the outreach that we have between students, staff, family. So we're a large building, and it has been nothing short of a miracle what we've done in the past month with turning around our daily routines into this new distance learning platform.
Sure. And let's get into that. When the governor first shut down our schools here in Montgomery County, and then, thereafter the rest of the state, one of the things that we were very concerned about in the legislature in Harrisburg was, that we wanted to ensure that our children were still learning, that, students were still getting an education. And look, we understand that that's not an easy task. But, could you expand and just explain? I run into people all the time who say, well, the kids are home, so the teachers must not be working. And, I correct them and say, geez, that nothing could be further from the truth. So how has this pandemic changed the way that our teachers are delivering education to our students?
We took a building of roughly 700 students that met with their teachers every single day, face-to-face from 8:25 until 3:40 each day. And now we're all online. So when I hear comments, whether what you had just said, or whether I read comments in the paper about how some of the citizens feel that teachers aren't working right now, as you said, that can't be further from the truth. Our teachers are working just as hard, if not harder right now in this environment. And when I say harder right now, I mean that because this is all new for them. They have not signed up to be distant learning teachers. They're learning how to provide instruction to our kids over the computer and over the internet. They're trying to figure out what best meets the needs of the learners in their classroom. And they're doing this, we like to say right now, we're building the plane as we're flying it. So this is new for us. And my teachers at Montgomery are doing a fantastic job. I've heard nothing but positive comments from our parents about the job our students and our teachers are doing, and how they feel like they are connected to our teachers, because our teachers are making a point to get in front of our kids face to face, whether it be these live sessions or recorded videos that our teachers will send out to their students. So, my staff is doing a fantastic job right now, and I couldn't be happier.
So when you talked a little bit about, I've heard the terms synchronous learning and asynchronous learning.
Sure.
Maybe you could explain a little bit about that, and then tell us, what's Montgomery Elementary doing? Are you doing, synchronous learning, asynchronous, a combination? How's that working out?
Sure. So synchronous learning means that if we said my class is going to meet today at 9 o'clock, we're going to teach a math lesson at 9 o'clock. I'm expecting all of my students to join me online at 9 o'clock today. And then from that point on, I would provide the instruction to my students. So that would be synchronous learning. Asynchronous learning means that teacher would provide an activity, whether it be a video of themselves, and they just post it. And we use Google Classroom in the majority of our grades. So they would post an assignment on Google Classroom, and the students can get to that assignment anytime throughout the course of the day. So at Montgomery, we're using actually a combination of both. A lot of our teachers are assigning activities, whether it be videos or something to work on, writing, for instance, or math work. And then the students can get to that whenever they can during the day, because we understand that a lot of their parents are working their jobs at home too. So they might not be able to provide any assistance with their child. Some of our students may need assistance getting some of that work done. So that's why a lot of our teachers do the asynchronous model. However, we are transitioning now a little bit more to synchronous. And that's more so, at least in this time, for the social emotional piece, that we want our teachers to get out in front of our kids and just see how they're doing. How's home life? And not so much even the schoolwork aspect, but just seeing mental health wise, how are you doing? How's your family holding up? What can they as the teachers do to help the students get through the tough times right now? So we are having a combination of the both. And I'm sure we'll be looking in the future to going more towards a synchronous learning model. But right now we're making the best of the situation.
So, you brought up a couple issues there, and it's interesting. As a state representative, I get the benefit of hearing from my colleagues all over the state. And, we're fortunate down here where, for the most part, there's broadband availability in our community. There's a lot of parts of Pennsylvania that don't even have internet access,
Sure.
Broadband internet access. And, they have their own set of challenges in terms of delivering education. But you mentioned, sort of this online learning, these two different approaches with synchronous and asynchronous. Have you guys run into any technology equity issues? And what I mean by that, for those that don't understand, is, not everybody has, a device or multiple devices, or the ability to, put one or more children on a device at given times of the day. So have you run into that at Montgomery Elementary, and how have you overcome that?
So here and there we have, and as a district we have as well. So some of the things that we've done, and I give a ton of credit to our Director of Technology, Dr. Kristen Landis. She implemented almost like a drive-through model for Chromebook pickup for our students. So it was, a couple weekends ago, a couple days, we had staff members volunteer, obviously following the social distancing guidelines, where students could come in if they needed a Chromebook because of the situation you just described, where some families may only have one device and you might have 2, 3, or 4 students at home or children at home that are in need of a device in order to complete their work. So what we did is we had, similar to like a drive-through restaurant, like Chick-fil-A, for instance, we just had staff members come. The families had to hold up ID. We brought their Chromebooks out to them, placed it on the table. Our staff members moved away. Families came, picked up the Chromebook, got back in the car. So that's how we handled Chromebook distribution, to ensure that all of our students had access to a machine to complete their work. Now, as far as the Wi-Fi, we do have some families in Montgomery, as well as throughout North Penn, that might not have had Wi-Fi or internet connections. So what we've done as the district, and through the North Penn Foundation, we were able to provide hotspots for families. So I know North Penn partnered with T-Mobile to get hotspots in any family that was in need. And we had a couple at Montgomery. They were able to sign up for that. And the district now provides a mobile hotspot for those families in order for our students to complete their work.
So, I mean, just this evolving, role that the district and our schools and our teachers are playing. So you've been delivering, you're like a Best Buy or someone else like that, delivering Chromebooks for students. You're dealing with all the IT issues associated with getting, standing people up with an internet connection they may not have had before. And then on top of that, your teachers are supposed to be delivering this new content, digitally. So how are they doing that? I mean, are they recording this themselves at home when they're using, putting together the asynchronous learning plans, or what? How is that working?
Sure. So I actually had the good fortune to be part of the math curriculum planning committee that was put into place once we went to our distant learning format. What we did for ELA, at least we started out in the elementary levels, we have ELA, which is your English language arts and reading, mathematics, and then we had science. And we provided a framework for our teachers. And we had teachers that were part of the committee as well that put together a framework for, here's your target. This is what you really should be targeting right now within your subject, knowing full well that every teacher's coming in at a different spot. So we kind of had the guardrails here, and you're going right in between. And then from there, our teachers and we know that they have their own lives at home as well. They have their own kids that are trying to do work. Some of them may have little kids at home that are unable to be by themselves. So our teachers are juggling a lot of balls right now, and they're doing a nice job doing that. But they're following the frameworks. They're posting their work. They're trying to stay as engaging as they possibly can and motivating their students in order to complete the work, because we know this is new. This whole distant learning format is brand new for all of us. And as I said before, we're building the plane as we're flying it. But the teachers at Montgomery are doing a fantastic job of building as we're going.
Great. You mentioned, English language arts, math, and science. What about other subjects, art, music, things like that? Are the students still learning in those areas? And if so, how are they doing that at Montgomery Elementary?
Absolutely. So this is week 2, I believe. Every Wednesday now, our general education teachers, so our English language arts teachers, our math teachers, they now have a day to catch up and provide feedback to student work. So on those Wednesdays, we have our specialists, our phys ed, our art, our library, our music. They have a Google site that is on the North Penn School District website, and they provide activities for our students to do. And we have a schedule. So every week, students will have to turn in 2 assignments, and it might be from a library class, an art class. And then the following week, you might have a PE class and a music class that you would have to turn something in. So we're still going with our specialists because we know they're just as important as anyone else, making sure our students have physical activity, reading materials. Music is a huge part. Art is a huge part. I know my own son who's in kindergarten, he enjoys when his district puts that on. But, for us, our band teachers and orchestra teachers are still providing videos of them playing different instruments and uploading those. I actually just talked to my band teacher yesterday, and he has a half-hour weekly that he meets with different grade levels across 2 schools. So we're still making it work the best that we can, and we're still trying to provide everything to our students that they typically would get at school, just a little bit adjusted right now, obviously.
Yeah, that sounds great, and a lot of work for sure. So, we talked a lot about, these programs that are available for traditional students. How about those students who might have special needs, or our ESL students, English as a second language students? How is your school adapting to provide them with the educational content they need?
Sure. So I would say that's probably been our biggest learning curve right now, especially when you're talking about our low incidence students, students that really need a lot of support. So what we've been doing is it's a combination of either meeting with them in live, like we're doing right now, videotaped sessions as well, a lot of phone conversations with parents. So it all is really depends on the specific family and the specific student and how we can best assist them. I know our OT and PT and speech therapists are working with them remotely as well. So we know it's not going to be exactly like it would be when they were in the brick and mortar school, but we're doing our best to meet our students where they are. We know we have our special education assistants as well, touching base with the students they work with. For instance, at Montgomery, we have a special education assistant who's been touching base with her second grade student and providing videos. And the family really has been enjoying that. So, we're trying to do the best that we can in the circumstances that we find ourselves in. But for us right now, I feel like we're doing a really good job of trying to meet our students where they're at. I know for our ESL students, spoke to our ESL teacher, Mrs. Chavor, and she's been using a lot of the language line that we have through the district to reach our families. She's providing.
What's the language line? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that.
Sure, absolutely. So whenever we have a family that English is not their first language, so ESL, English is the second language, and we need to communicate with those families, there's a language line that we can call, and we can identify which language, let's say Mandarin. We have a family at Montgomery, they only speak Mandarin at home. So what we would do is we would call the language line, we would say it in English to the interpreter, who in turn would then turn around and speak it in Mandarin to the family at home.
Got it.
So we've been utilizing language line often the past couple weeks. Check-ins with our students as well. Mr. Chavor has been doing that, and she's been jumping in and out of classrooms and sessions and just trying to provide as much support as she can to her students.
Yeah, it's great. Clearly your plate is full and overflowing, but in addition to the educational services and the technology services and the special needs services and the English as a second language services, are there any other services or, is there anything else that Montgomery is doing for the families within the footprint of the elementary school there?
Sure. So on a typical day at Montgomery, typical week rather, we have mental health supports that would come in and assist our students. Like we have Lakeside Counseling or Marikey, which you may be familiar with. We have some of their therapists come in and work with some of our students to provide some mental health supports. And they work in conjunction with Mrs. Sterling, who's our school counselor. And those services have continued virtually. So we have still set that up where Marikey is working with some of our students. Lakeside is still working with some of our students, and Mrs. Sterling has been holding her lunch bunches virtually. So we're still trying to provide as much mental health support to our students who may need that even more now, so that they're out of the building. And to be honest, some of our students, they look forward to coming to school because that's kind of their release in case they have maybe a tougher time at home.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still trying to continue to bring that to our students and provide those supports to them.
That's great. So, let's talk about next September. Fingers crossed, we're all hoping that our building's open next September. We're not quite sure what that's going to look like yet, but, what do you foresee? Is there any concern that these students, are not going to be up to par and ready to meet those milestones that they need to meet in order to move on to the next grade level at Montgomery Elementary? What are your thoughts there?
Sure. So I think it doesn't matter if you talk to me, if you talk to anyone else in the field of education. I think we have to realize as a society that there are going to be some gaps. The students aren't getting what they typically would get if they were continuing through the rest of the school year. So I think we have to understand that, but also use that knowledge now to build what future education can look like and completely have a rethought process of what schooling could be. Understanding that, yes, there probably will be some gaps, but how are we going to address that as a building? And that's something that the conversations have already started with my staff. They've already started within North Penn School District in rethinking education and coming back, because we know whatever normal was, it's not going to be the same when we get back. Whether it's health restrictions in the building and how we just do daily drop off or pickup, some of those conversations need to be had as well. But getting back to the fact of how do we help students pick it up, and those, I'm happy to say that those conversations have already begun in North Penn and particularly at Montgomery. And how are we best going to get and meet our students where they are in order to continue their educational journey?
Sure. Well, I think that's a great outlook, great approach. And I know that, again, we talked earlier, but everybody's got to be a little bit flexible here because, every day is different and we don't know what the next day is going to bring. And we've just got to be ready to adapt to it as it comes along. Do you think that this pandemic might provide an impetus for some changes long-term for the way we deliver education? Any thoughts there? I know it's early, but, any preliminary thoughts along those lines?
I would say absolutely. In my opinion, I think we're way past we're overdue for a rehaul in education, to be honest with you. I think we need to look at the role of our teachers as being the lead learners in class, and maybe even repurpose the name from teachers to something else that involves really the facilitators of learning in the classroom, and more of a student-centered classroom, personalized learning. So I think there's a lot out there that we can move to in education. We have the world at our fingertips, and I think we need to look at education as something that needs to evolve as well. And as I said in the prior question, that's something that I'm happy to say those conversations have already started taking place. Where are we going to go? Normal is not going to be normal or what it was before. So how do we evolve and roll with the time and really take our students where they need to get? I saw a statistic recently. I believe it was something like 70 or 80% of jobs that are current kindergarten students, by the time they graduate, aren't even created yet. So how, as educators now, do we form education so that we're trying to meet those needs and have our students best prepared for when they enter the workforce in I guess, what is that, 13 years, rather than how we would instruct back in, the 80s, 90s, 1800s rather. So for me, I think it's time for a change, and it's time to get it going. And unfortunately, if it took a pandemic to get us in that direction, if you're looking for positives, I think this is one positive that education can really take a step forward.
That's great that you're viewing this as a potential catalyst to really improve our educational delivery system for better outcomes for the kids. I mean, that's what we all want.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mentioned, early on this pandemic, we did some legislation. I know that school districts, including North Penn, were, really interested in some legislation really to provide some stability across our districts in Pennsylvania. Despite the uncertain future, we wanted to provide some assurances regarding, teacher salaries and everything else like that, and finances regarding the school district. Is there any other needs you see legislatively from our standpoint in the short term? I mean, we're going to obviously have some real long-term issues we're going to have to look at as well. But anything in the short term that you need from us in Harrisburg to help you better deliver education for your kids?
Sure. So, I mean, if you're looking educationally and what we could use right now from the state level, you look at school taxes coming in, pushing those dates back a little bit so that citizens wouldn't be delinquent on their taxes. Pushing that back would really be, I think, a huge thing for the school district, because, we are going through an economic crisis right now, and it's most likely going to get a little bit worse before it gets better. So how do we hold strong, making sure that the school districts are getting everything that we need in order to provide a proper education for our kids? And I think that would be one of the things that I would say, pushing back those dates, having more installment dates along with it as well, to provide citizens the opportunity that said, hey, maybe I can't afford X amount of money right now, but if I do it along the way, this would be a great thing for us, and we would be able to swing that. So I think that would be one thing. The second thing that I would probably say, and what would be the cyber charter reform for us. We give a lot of money to cyber schools. If you're looking back, I believe it was 2017, 2018, public schools in Pennsylvania gave roughly $1.8 billion to cyber and charter schools across the state of Pennsylvania, with over $500 million going right to cyber. And then in addition to that, look at the special education monies that we have to pay, the expenditures to cyber schools. And the cyber school funding there and the charter school funding, I think would be something that should be revisited. The inequities that we're paying the cyber charter schools X amount of money for special education students based on the number of students we have in our public school system. So I think that funding system and that funding formula is something that would really benefit public schools, especially in North Penn.
For sure. Yeah, I've heard that quite a bit. There's been a conversation for several years about reforming those cyber charter funding formulas, and just trying to drill down and look at what are their actual costs of delivering education. It's interesting because North Penn, has its own cyber charter or cyber school alternative option that's available for families. So it makes you scratch your head even more to think that North Penn is going to pay a cyber charter someplace else when they're offering that alternative for families as it is.
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, for me, one of my ideas would be to have a statewide cyber school. And that way, you would take a lot of the heat off of public schools, a lot of the financial burdens that public schools face and public school systems face by spending those monies on the charter schools. I think if you created a statewide cyber school and organized a task force to create it, utilize curriculum experts to have standards-based curriculum for our students, I think that might be a better option for public schools as a whole in the state of Pennsylvania.
That's great. Well, look, I appreciate that insight and certainly look into it. On the pushing property taxes back, I actually do have a bill on that.
It's great to hear.
So yeah, it's I introduced it, I guess, a couple of weeks ago, but we hope to get that moving shortly. And I worked with, the School Boards Association and the School Business Officials Association, as well as the PSEA, the State Education Association, to ensure that, we provide some relief for property taxpayers, but at the same time, make sure our schools can still function and strike that balance. So that should be moving forward shortly. So I'm glad to hear that'll help in North Penn as well.
Yeah, I really think statewide, that would be a big help to property owners as well as school districts. I think it's a win-win for both sides, to be honest.
Well, look, TJ, thank you so much for taking the time. I think this is going to be really helpful for my constituents and those around our community, to learn what's going on with our schools right now. I mean, we're all going through a lot, as I said at the outset, but our schools are continuing to do great things, whether it's in terms of technology or other areas, but one way or another, making sure that our kids are receiving the education that they should be receiving. So thanks for all you're doing. Thanks to your staff. And really look forward to keeping in touch on anything else I can do to help you up in Harrisburg.
Thanks, Todd. I appreciate it. Yeah, and my staff is fantastic, and without them, I'm not where I am. So they are the hard workers, and I give all credit to them. They're doing a fantastic job for our family.
All right, sounds great. Stay safe now, okay? We'll talk soon.
All right, same. Thanks, Todd.
So long, TJ.